and similar. And frequencies met at wave functions, stopping to radio with one another, paired particulates of quantum tunneling and other jargon emitted from the imposition of math by the Sims calculates. Sunny rays conflicted with my own limited vision and reminded me of the sun lamp rock crystals scattering across the North Pole, and I felt the fantasy coming on strong again to relive the terror of that score, but wrestled in my mind for a moment and only just managed to avoid falling over the boards and into the suspension of shivering night solution. The bay called out to me to make the decision to stumble and unite with the noxious phosphorescence billowing off the water and tremble as I sank into union with the sea. But I kept my head fixed forward and tread lightly on the creaking wood weathered by the circulatory movements of the moon. I had one notion in mind, which was to climb the tall light tower and consult those workers still visible in its single-pointed spire, with dome and feather-touching sky. I could only assume that there would be there the people I wanted to see in the square, and I wagered against the loss of my now polished pebble, coated in slime, from the waters slipping it silently into the entrance fee foyer, for a tour up the spiral staircase at the end of the long trek to the island. While no one greeted me to show me through the lighthouse levels, a brick shifted on the wall and held out a receipt for my payment, along with a package which I unwrapped, revealing a shiny new guidebook, the newest addition to the life in Jorna. I read the first paragraph, which said, "Jorna, first tip to free the traveler from sight, key included, douse it, then head for the lighthouse, got it?" The rest of the pages were blank, and I stowed the tiny tome in my satchel and continued through the swinging doors down a long hallway which led to a well and a glass case containing stairs inlaid with gold, all gold everywhere. Squalor as the elevator went downwards into the pit of melt runoff, from the spitting ice down along all sides through to the fires beneath and stoking coal unearthed or uniced from the glowing ammonia basins. We stood in line and waited as the cafe administered lei and a cold soup, which we washed down with broth, and drank a stalagmite of druck, and back to work. In the fiery furnace stood 2 teleprompters on wheels with availing eyes to guide us in retreat through the warmer area. Turn and off my feet and back up the stair, the ever-ending stair which blankly evinced me of my surrounding and threw me back in northward vision, construing both the lighthouse and the rent ground with fire breath and warmth, that thing we took back with us in the pits of our stomachs. And always, and in the past, and never the future, our hallucinations rang true as the bell at the service of cafeteria foods. And the bell at the top of the tower reflected the moon and shone with frequent wanderings to look for castaways, souls who have 7 or southward written on their eye windows, and saying to me a few tumbling words becoming wavelength wires to my spirit. That's me. 6 and 7. How when we listen, the numbers that correspond to hell and heaven. I remember looking down and seeing a spotlight on a sporting vessel with flag raised and sails cast down to catch the reflections off the inlet lake. I knew the banner well, that fitting into grooves along the ocean's tiny nodules, gritting the egg's sentience through and fluttering in a long free ellipse along the ship's way. Northerners from Kibakade and ransom wares for sell and trade would take me back if they found me, but here the lamp house of liquid light transferred its watchful hourglass again and saw another ship of quite a distant origin. I have seen the feet of Tla locked in the camp of trees and feeding his growing pyramids and mixture of human arteries and bleeding red Brazil wood. The two combined fed his growing inside garden of the Mazanesian menagerie. The third time the reversed vessel transmitted its ember timetable and shifted to a new craft, a cargo fleet sending silos of saboteurs to their destinations across the islands of Elban Dominion. I had not noticed these tricorn carracks before, and as I sailed down the trembling hypotenuse of the Scalene, sending me straight toward the freight loot and all its ores, cannonballs of cast iron flew all around me in my descent, and several Lamb lightships had taken down one of the Canadian frontiersmen's interceptors, who now retreated from the inlet island and its lighthouse. I landed on the top of the stacks of gunpowder cube boxes and barrels, I believe.